Welcome back to another episode of Health is Wealth, and thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. And as always, I am beyond grateful and thankful from the bottom of my heart for each and every one of you who is continuing to tune in to these episodes. And hopefully you are gaining something from this as I just share thoughts and words of things that I am going through on my own journey in life, things that I am learning for the first time, things that I'm relearning, understanding from a different viewpoint, and so forth, in hopes that perhaps you gain some value from this, whether it be inspiration, motivation, learning something for the first time, or again, yourself, maybe seeing something in a different perspective as we are all on this crazy journey called life. And, if anything, hopefully just get a chance to know me a little bit more and understand who I am and the mission that I am on in life in creating the greatest version of myself. So again, thank you so much. So for this week's episode, what I wanted to talk about was, what lessons are showing up in your life right now. I had this thought here last week, about lessons that continue to show up in life, right? And I often believe that there are certain lessons that continue to show up in our lives for a reason. Sometimes we make the same mistake over and over again. And the reason, for that is I believe it is a part of our journey. If there is something, a lesson, a mistake that you continue to make over and over again, then there might be something bigger to this, right? And again, it might be part of the plan for us to get to the point until we can actually learn from this lesson to move on to the next chapter in life. And as an example, I thought about this on my own journey because I'm still making some financial mistakes in my own life, and I'm not afraid to admit that. It's not something I've been perfect at. I continue to try to improve on, but I do see myself making mistakes on the same, things that I have had lessons before from. And so I think it's God's way of just saying, hey, we're going to continue bringing this lesson in your life for you to learn until you can actually learn it. Because once you can figure this thing out, I have something bigger, better, and more waiting from you. And I just started to recognize it for what it was. Sometimes we look at lessons or things that happen to us, I think, as punishments or bad luck or karma, or just life being unfair. I've begun to approach looking at lessons that is meant to break us, but more or less something that was intended to make us, And so when I see lessons and I see things that take place, obstacles, struggles, things that I'm trying to learn from, I realize it's part of a plan. It's part of a purpose. There is something about this, especially if you notice something in your life that continues to show up, that there is a reason it is continuing to be placed in front of you. Now, we all make mistakes and we all don't get anything right the first time. But I think it's important to recognize that if you can see the same thing happening again and again, it might be time to start looking at them as they show up and be like, okay, I've got to become more intentional about learning from this lesson I'm being brought into my life, because there must be a bigger reason for that. And so for me personally, it's been just that. Some of these financial, mistakes that I've made, not spending well, not saving well, not investing well, not being, disciplined on, budgeting or tracking my spending, my dollars, my income, all of that as I should be. And due to the lack of that, there is these lessons that continue to show up to where I get myself in a little financial bind or, struggle or things of that nature. And so, coming this round, right, I had to sit down and really think that, okay, I've been down this road before, and I've made the mistake before. I had to be honest with myself first and foremost about it. But then I had to really sit and think that, why is this lesson continuing to show up, Why can't I just not learn from it and just let it be done and just move on to something else? But as I began to think about it, I sat and realized, okay, well, I'm being given this opportunity over and over and over again to learn from this, because there must be something God's setting me up for in life. There must be something bigger ahead that I am supposed to, be moved on to. But he's not willing to give me that until I learn a lesson from that, right? And I think that's one of the great things about God is he's not going to give you something in life or open up a new chapter or new door in life yet you aren't prepared for yet, right? Because I'm after a life of abundance. I'm after some better, bigger things in life. And God recognizes that, because if you were to open those doors to me too early, I wouldn't be quite ready. And I believe those lessons in our lives are just that. He is trying to test us. He's trying to give us something to see if can we handle the responsibility of what's to come next. And oftentimes it'll show up over and over and over again until we are ready, because he knows he's preparing you for something bigger and better and more. So when you think about those lessons that continue to show up in your life, just know that they are being put there for a reason. And if you continue to see the same thing over and over again, maybe you're making the same mistake from the same lesson that continues to show up. It might mean that you got to start taking it more seriously. As with my own, lessons that continue to show up, I realize God's telling me, hey, my guy, we need to take this thing more seriously. I'm giving you the opportunities. I don't want to quite shut you out just yet, because I know I got something bigger waiting for you. And I want to give you that opportunity to learn from it, because once you can learn from that, I can't tell you the great blessings that I've got on the other side of you learning from that lesson and mistake. And so sitting down with God, having a conversation later, I said, okay, God, I'm ready. I am going to be as intentional as I can this time round, really learning from a lot of big mistakes, on how to better, become disciplined with my financial habits. Just like in fitness, just like in anything that you want to improve, you have to become intentional, disciplined. What doesn't get tracked won't get measured. And so for me now, going forth on that, I'm going to become a lot more intentional on my spending habits, watching my money in my bank, watching what's coming in, watching where it's going, how to develop those principles and foundations, because I know that this lesson that's continuing to show up that I haven't quite got better yet at is absolutely there and continues to show up for a reason, because it is a part of the bigger plan. And I know until I am ready, God will not open up those doors. And so the most important thing for me to take out of this is I recognize that the same lesson continues to show up, and it's God's way of giving me more and more chances, right? And just giving me those opportunities, because he doesn't want to shut me out of things, but he's not willing to give me what's, I deserve or what he wants me to have until he knows that I can handle those responsibilities. So think about that in your life. Are there lessons that are showing up over and over again and you haven't quite learned from them just yet? And maybe you just brush it off. Maybe you really don't think about it. But if there's something that continues to show up over and over again and you continue to make the same mistake, just know that maybe that's God's way of showing you that this thing is something he's trying to give you chances on, because it's something that you need to overcome and figure out in order for you to get to that next step in life, to get to that next level, for him to open up a new door. And so as I looked at it that way, it just made me realize that yes, I've been given several chances, to do better with my financial stuff, and I still haven't got it quite yet, right? But this time around, I've recognized it and realized God has something bigger and more purposeful waiting for me. And so this time around, I'm making some intentional actions and doing a lot to become more financially disciplined, start getting to a point to where I can just track more, learn more, understand money more, and really put a big focus, because I know that God's given me a sign to be like, if we can figure this out, I am going to get you to that next step of where you really want to be, but not until we are ready for this, right? So think about that as those lessons pop up in your life. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Health is Wealth, and we will see you on the